small but important contribution to mitigating climate change. Small because in terms of CO2 tonnage, it's already performing pretty well, and in the rest of the transport sector, public transport is probably the most economic and environmentally performant per capita that we have at the moment, but very large in terms of image, because the image of public transport, transport touches everybody's lives. And as UN Habitat said, or announced in 2007, we have, for the first time in human history, become a more urban society than a rural society. So more people are living in towns and cities than ever before. And this is exactly where public transport actually performs best. And so it is important that the people in these towns and cities start reflecting on their own individual mobility behaviour. And here again, public transport needs to improve its image and make itself more attractive. And we can only do that with increased investment into the sector. Well, we have many challenges. First of all, public transport itself as a sector has undergone tremendous change in the last 10 years. There has been in Europe an opening of the market and increased competitivity and competition put out there. And this has improved in some areas, and we have had some challenges to overcome in other areas. However, this said, I think that the sector as itself is very promoteur for the rest of the future, and certainly in playing a role in a sustainable future. We are today, as we stand here, already at the forefront of technology, which is an interesting area. We have already hydrogen buses out there in more than 10 cities. We use biofuel, we use ethanol, we use hybrid technology, and we are looking for more. And there is a lot of possibility, I think, for the private sector to play a role in bringing new technologies mainstream quicker through public transport than in other areas of transport. NGOs, government and business all need to work together very, very closely. First of all, the NGOs at the local level, they are the people that need the transport. They need to get from A to B in the most environmentally efficient and economic manner. So that's the affordability and the accessibility issues. Then governments need to set the framework in place which allows a transport system to be put in place, and not just something about a little bit of mode here, so a rail leg here, a bus service there. We need to have an integrated system that integrates pedestrians, bicycling, tariffs, ticketing, all these different aspects of transport within an urban area that makes it easy for people to get across their city. It makes it easy for them to get to jobs, to employment, to education, so there is a higher skilled workforce. And public transport itself actually is in itself a very big employer, so we have a big role to play in that. Public transport is sometimes viewed by governments as being an expensive option, and certainly in the developing world it is viewed so, which is not actually the reality. And work done at UITP has shown that about 560 billion euro is wasted from European GDP in the 25 EU countries just through congestion, air pollution and traffic accidents. And the capital investment on the other side in public transport is just over 100 billion. So there is an equal playing field at that point. It means also that public transport as a sector needs to invite the public and the private sector to invest more in it, to make more performing networks. And we're on the way to doing it, but it is a big challenge for us. Well, I think at the moment one of the big problems is that there are not the right signals going out, in particular to the developing world. And even within the developed world, in fact, public transport is not seen as being as much of an important actor in the environmental programs as it should be. In general, most networks these days can perform at about 2.2 times better energy efficiency than the private car. And yet this is not the perception of the man on the street. And in the developing world, the governments there are not investing in organized transport networks, so they are letting it come up from an informal basis, which at the end of the day is probably having a very big impact on the environment and on their energy performances. So there needs to be some better signals sent out to the developing world in order to encourage them to take a greater and stronger interest in mass transit. And from the developed world, there should be greater flows of capital. The CDM at the moment is not very conducive to transport. There are only 2 transport projects in that. And most carbon trading does not include transport because it is a difficult sector. And we need to overcome those difficulties. They can be done, but it needs a conscious effort and a lot of support from government, business, actors such as ourselves, the International Association, and others, including NGOs.